Hello, everyone. This is the Crimson Cure, welcoming you to the Crimson Tower, a place where we keep a feminine foot on the neck of the gynocracy, feminism, and black male misandry. So go ahead, pull up a chair, stay a while, and listen.
Hey y'all, Donnie Keith here, aka Auntie Peaches from the Aunties Radio Show, also on The Voice of Reason. I'm here to say that ever since my man started taking A game, he's been on top of his A game. What? When I say A game, I mean his A game. He's more focused. He's definitely working out more. His attitude is better. And he's not complaining of all over body aches due to poor blood circulation, because A-Game provides great blood circulation, if you know what I mean, ladies. That blood circulation. Sometimes I have to hide the A-Game in the bushes when I'm out walking the dog just because I want some sleep, if you know what I mean, ladies. Stay on top of your A-Game, fellas. Get your A-Game.
Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I am, of course, your host, the Crimson Cure, and as usual, we're going to jump right into the topic. So I am going to show you something. This is a quote from Carter G. Woodson from the book, The Miseducation of the Negro, which was written in 1933. And the quote says, "When you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary." And the translation for our purposes to that quote is this: we use our biology to create our culture. We use our culture to shape our environment, and we make our environment conform to our biology. So if you want to change a person's value system, which is what's most important to them in life, you must first change how they perceive themselves, how they think, and what they feel. If you change how they perceive themselves, they will change their own personal culture, what they do and how they act, and their environment, how they interact with the surroundings to preserve the new value system. Now I'm going to read you an article that you might find interesting, and then we're going to have some commentary. We're going to talk about some things. So I need you to bear with me. All right. So this article, the Texas carries out first execution in 10 months. Quintin Jones, 41, was executed by the state of Texas on Wednesday night, breaking a 10-month-long hiatus of executions in the state. Jones was executed for a murder he committed more than 20 years ago. The execution took place without media witnesses, the Associated Press reports. A spokesperson for the prison did not receive the phone call to inform him that it was time to bring reporters to the prison, so they continued waiting in an office across the street while the execution took place, according to the AP. The Texas Department of Criminal Justice can only apologize for this error, and nothing like this will ever happen again, the spokesperson said in a statement to AP. In 1999, Jones was convicted of beating his 83-year-old great-aunt Berthena Bryant to death with a baseball bat when she refused to give him $30 for drugs, according to court documents. He was sentenced to death in 2001 in Tarrant County and had been on death row ever since. In 2020, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals issued several stays of execution due to C-19. Jones's death is the first execution in the state since July the 8th. The convicted murderer and his family had pleaded to change his sentence to life in prison, saying that he had been forgiven by his relatives, was remorseful, and had changed for the better during his decades in prison. He is not the same person and has grown up. Maddie Long, the only living sibling of Bryant, wrote in a clemency position. Quintin can't bring her back. I can't bring her back. I am writing this to ask you to please spare Quintin's life. Jones's twin brother, Benjamin, detailed their troubled childhood, saying that they had no positive role models while growing up and sought out trouble under little supervision. Please don't cause us to be victimized again through Quinn's execution, the prisoner's brother wrote. A petition called Clemency for Quinn had collected more than 170,000 signatures prior to his execution. On Tuesday, the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles rejected Jones's clemency plea. His lawyer, Michael Mawla, said that race may be to blame, citing a previous case where the same board reprieved the case of Thomas Whitaker, a white man convicted of murdering his mother and brother. Mawla then asked the U.S. Supreme Court to grant a reprieve to stop Jones's execution. The lack of consistency in the application of grounds for clemency, where clemency was recommended and granted for Whitaker, who is white, and rejected for Mr. Jones, who is black, presents a legally cognizable claim that Mr. Jones's race played an impermissible role in the board's denial of his application for clemency, Mawla said in a court filing. The request was not granted. In a final plea from Jones himself, published by the New York Times, Jones asked Texas Governor Greg Abbott to stop his execution. If you could find it in your heart, Governor, to grant me clemency, I can continue to live life to better myself, to better those around me, he said. All I'm asking you to do, if you could find it in your heart, Mr. Abbott, is to give me a second chance at life. In the video, he told reporters that his 22 years in prison had made him a more thoughtful man and allowed him to love himself more. I'm nothing like that person, he said. I'm not ready to die. Abbott had granted clemency to only one inmate on death row during his 6 years in office. Abbott could also have chosen to delay the execution for 30 days. However, he has never done so without the recommendation of the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles. National Association for the Advancement of Colored People President Derrick Johnson said in a statement following the execution, another black man has been executed tonight. America's outlook on justice remains broken, barbaric, and inhuman. Perhaps we need more forgiveness, more love, more understanding. I have no other words. So, why did I read that article and why did I share the quote from Carter G. Woodson? Well, as you all know, this week I've been heavily covering the concept of bioculturon. And if you haven't seen that little gem of a chart, here it is. Biology, culture, and environment. Okay. So I've been heavily covering this topic. And the reason why I wanted to bring up the execution of Quintin Jones is to illustrate the value system that was given to him that he acted out. Because as the quote goes, when you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. That's a reference to biology, because biology includes what we think, okay? You do not have to tell him to not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. That is a reference to culture, because culture involves what we do and how we behave. And then it says you do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary. And that actually refers to environment, because the controlling of his biology and then his changing of his personal culture actually will make him change his personal environment such that it will be law to him, whatever the biology became. And I'm hoping that this is making sense to everyone. Okay? Because that's why I did the translation of that quote, to better fit in with the concept of bioculturon. Because if I'm going to read the translation again, if you want to change a person's value system, what's most important to them in life, you must first change how they perceive themselves. All right. So if you want to change how a person what kind of value system they have, they first have to change how to perceive themselves. And that could be to their good or to their bad. Can be to their benefit or to their detriment. All right. And if you change how they perceive themselves, they will change their own personal culture, what they do and how they act, and their environment, how they interact with the surroundings to preserve the new value system. So what does that have to do with Quintin Jones? If you think about it, he was about 20 years old when he committed the heinous crime of beating his great aunt to death over, excuse me. My apologies. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, it gets dry in the throat or whatever. But anyway, I just drunk some water too. But anyways, he committed the heinous crime of beating his great aunt, who was in her 80s, to death with a baseball bat due to $30 in drugs. Now, what was the change in his biology? Now, this happened in 99, which was in the throes of the crack epidemic that was going on in the Black neighborhoods all across the United States. So at 20 years old, this man is addicted to drugs. So it's a change in his biology. So they changed the biology by introducing a very addictive drug, which was crack, into Black neighborhoods. All right. The change of that biology, because it changed what people did with their bodies, it hooked them on drugs. Okay. And then the culture changed because their behavior was centered around supporting the drug habit, which is the biology that got changed. So during the crack epidemic, there was a particular type of culture that was developed around it, both for the user and the seller. In this case, he was the user. So he has an addiction, all right, that changes his biology. And because of that, his culture changed, his personal culture, how he behaved, what he did. And what you do and how you behave is always going to be in support of your biology. Okay? Because the first human drive that we have is self-preservation. And we're going to preserve the self no matter what the self contains. So even if the self contains a bunch of dysfunction, we're still going to attempt to preserve it because it's us. So being addicted to crack is a dysfunction. It's an addiction. So anything that you do to preserve the self in that condition is going to be dysfunctional. So all of the things that you do, all of the depraved things that you could ask a drug addict what they used to do, and they tell you all the crimes they committed, all of the debaucherous acts that they committed, things that they never would have done had they not been addicted to drugs. And then not only did the culture change, the environment changed, because 94 crime bill, it was signed into law. And then we had a lot of our institutions were including anti-drug messages and things of that nature. So the bioculturon was changed for many Black people, including this man, Quintin Jones. All right. So he acted according to the biology that was imposed, just like the quote of Carter G. Woodson saying that if I change it, you're not going to have to worry about what I do, because what I do is going to be in support of whatever the new biology is now. And what this does is this helps to install a new value system. See, at the time that Quintin Jones committed that murder, his value system didn't have anything to do with valuing his own life or the life of his aunt that he killed. The highest priority in his life was the drugs, because he gave his life and took hers for them. So that was actually the most important thing in his life. That was his value system. That was the foundation of his value system, which is going to dictate whatever else you do. Okay. So I need people to understand how this happened, because his twin brother started explaining what they were going through, the hard life that they were going through. And I'm not doing this video to try to justify or make somebody feel sorry. He committed a heinous crime. Although I will throw this in here too. I think that the way that the United States handles death sentences is atrocious. I feel like if the case was that airtight, first of all, you can't sentence nobody to death as long as their trial has holes in it or reasonable doubt. There can be no doubt if the punishment is going to be taking somebody's life for a crime that they commit that's heinous enough for you to say, you know what, no time in jail. We're going to execute you. I feel like from the time of sentencing, if the sentence is the death penalty, then that person should be killed within 48 to 72 hours of that sentencing. No appeals, no nothing, because if you're going to sentence somebody to death, then that trial you had better be airtight from every angle. All right. So I feel like it's unjust. It becomes unjust after 22 years. You're going to punish me that way. You're going to keep me on pins and needles for 2 decades about when you're going to kill me for a crime I committed. Now, no one's saying that the crime wasn't heinous or atrocious. I mean, because it was, right? You beat an old woman to death for $30, essentially, and some drugs, right? So you did commit a ridiculous crime, but it was a crime done 22 years ago. And why does the time matter? Because it's a different person. Quintin's biocultural was changed again by entering into the prison system. That's a completely different environment with a completely different culture in it, and your biology is affected by these things. All right. The prison has its own culture. Each prison actually has its own type of subculture, but prisons have their own cultures and their own environments that are very different from the outside world, from free people, right? It's a system in and of itself. It's self-contained. So your biology, culture, and environment are automatically affected immediately when you enter, because the biology is affected by being forcibly incarcerated. You cannot leave, go, and come when you want to. So that changes the biology, right? It changes how you think about things. It changes everything. The culture changes because culture is based on what you do and how you act. So now your culture is being dictated to you by the rules of the prison system, because you can't just do what you want to do. You can't just act how you want to act. You have to act in the way that is deemed suitable by the COs and the warden and all of that in a prison. And to a certain extent, your behavior got to be compliant to some degree to the other inmates if you want to stay alive. Okay, or if you want to stay sane. All right. And then the environment itself has an effect on the biology again, just being incarcerated in the first place. Right? That's why they call it being institutionalized, because it's an institution. Prison is an institution. And you get institutionalized. Why do they call it institutionalized? Because your value system will be changed because of the biocultural change. Prison actually is a fast track, because prison is going to change biology, culture, and environment immediately upon entering it. So your value system is flipped automatically once you enter into the prison system, because the stuff that you valued on the outside don't have much importance in the order that you value them while you're inside. Different stuff has to become more valuable. Your commissary becomes extremely valuable. Stuff that we don't place value on. Little soups and little noodles and little cakes and little this and little that, whatever you can get your hands on. We take that stuff for granted on the outside. On the inside, that becomes very important. Safety becomes of paramount importance every day. You got to watch out for fights. You got to watch out for assaults of all kinds while you're there. You can't be perceived a certain way. You can't carry yourself a certain way if you don't want a bunch of problems. Okay? So when we think about prison, that's actually a really good, it's messed up, but that's a really good way to think of bioculture. A person's individual value system can be flipped by entering into the prison system, which automatically alters biology, culture, and environment of that individual. All right. So I just wanted to bring that to you guys today, just to further illustrate bioculture and the fact that it can be implemented on an individual as well as a group. So it's not just for large groups. This is why the solution is to individually flip our value system by changing our own bioculture. See, this is the key that unlocks the door. But it has to be done individually, right? Because this is how we resolve the issue. And unfortunately, the prison system lets us understand that a person's value system can be flipped individually by individually altering a person's bioculture. All right. So with that being said, I want everyone to sound off in the comment section. What do you think about the story? What do you think about anything that I've had to say in this video? Do we understand bioculture? Do we need more explanation about it? Or has the videos and live streams that I've been doing all this week made it clear for everyone? All right. So like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And I'm going to wrap this up. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, Crimsonites. Hey guys, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor, who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.